Book of Heaven, Volume 12. The 18th of September to the 23rd of October 1917. Page 23 to 30. September 18, 1917. Effects of constancy in good. Continuing in my usual state, I was in the midst of pains. More so, since my celestial mamma had made herself seen, crying. And as I asked her, "My mamma, why are you crying?" She told me, "My daughter, how could I not cry, since the fire of divine justice would want to devour everything? The fire of sins devours all the good of souls, and the fire of justice wants to destroy all that belongs to the creatures. And in seeing the fire running, I cry. Therefore, pray, pray." Then, I was lamenting to Jesus about his privations. It seemed to me that, without him, I could take no more. Moved to compassion for my poor soul, my lovable Jesus came, and transforming me within himself, told me, "My daughter, patience. Constancy in good puts everything in a safe place. Even more, I tell you that when you are deprived of me, fighting between life and death for the pain of being without your Jesus, and in spite of this you remain constant in good and you neglect nothing, you do nothing other than squeeze yourself. And in squeezing, love of self, natural satisfactions, come out, your nature remains as though undone, and what is left is a juice so pure and so sweet that I take it with great delight, and I soften, looking at you with so much love and tenderness that I feel your pains as if they were mine. So, if you are cold, dry and the like, but you remain constant, you give as many squeezes to yourself, and you form more juice for my embittered heart. It happens as with a prickly fruit with a hard skin, but which contains a sweet and useful substance inside. If the person is constant in removing the prickles, in squeezing that fruit, he will extract all of its substance, and will enjoy the best of that fruit. So, the poor fruit is emptied of the good which it contained. Even more, the prickles and the skin have been thrown away. The same for the soul. In coldness, in aridities, she casts natural satisfactions to the ground, she empties herself of herself, and through constancy, she squeezes herself. So, the soul remains with the pure fruit of good, and I enjoy the sweetness of it. Therefore, if you are constant, everything will serve you as good, and I will place my graces with confidence. September 28, 1917. The acts done in the divine will are suns which illuminate all, and will serve to put in safety those who have a little bit of good will. Continuing in my usual state, my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, darkness is thick and creatures precipitate more. Even more, in this darkness they are digging the abyss in which they will perish. The mind of man has remained blind, and it has no more light to look at good, only at evil, and evil will inundate him, and will make him perish. So, where they believe to find safety, they will find death. Ah! My daughter, ah! My daughter!" Then he added, "The acts done in my will are like suns which illuminate all. And as long as the act of the creature lasts in my will, one more sun shines in the blind minds, and those who have a little bit of goodwill will find the light to escape from the precipice. All the others will perish. Therefore, in these times of thick darkness, how much good is done by the acts of the creature done in my will? For those who will escape, it will be only by virtue of these acts." Having said this, he withdrew. Then he came back again and added, "I can say that the soul who does my will and lives in it is my carriage, and I hold the reins of everything. I hold the reins of her mind, of her affections, of her desires, and I leave not even one of them in her power. And sitting on her heart in order to be more comfortable, my dominion is complete and I do whatever I want. Now I make the carriage run, now I make it fly. Now it brings me to heaven, now I go around the whole earth, now I stop. Oh! How glorious and victorious I am, I dominate and I reign. But if the soul does not do my will and lives from the human will, the carriage falls apart. She takes the reins away from me, and I remain without dominion, like a poor king who has been thrown out of his kingdom. And the enemy takes my place, while the reins remain at the mercy of her own passions. October 4, 1917. The pains and the blood of Jesus run after man, to heal him and save him. This morning my always lovable Jesus transported me outside of myself. He was in my arms, with his face so very close to mine, kissing me slowly, slowly, as if he did not want me to perceive it. But after he repeated his kisses, I could not contain myself from returning him with my kisses. But as I was kissing him, a thought came to me, to kiss his most holy lips, and try to suckle the bitternesses that he contained. Who knows if Jesus would surrender? Said and done. I kissed him and I tried to suckle, but nothing would come out. I prayed him to pour his bitternesses into me and, again, I suckled with more strength. But nothing. It seemed that my Jesus suffered from the strains I was causing him. After I did it again, with ardor, for a third time, I felt the most bitter breath of Jesus coming into me, and I saw something hard across his throat, which couldn't come out and prevented him from letting out the bitternesses that he contained, so as to pour them into me. And my afflicted Jesus, almost crying, told me, my daughter, resign yourself. Don't you see what hardness man put into me with sin, which prevents me from sharing my bitternesses with the one who loves me? Ah! Don't you remember when I told you, let me do, otherwise man will reach the point of doing so much evil as to exhaust evil itself, not knowing what more evil to do, and you did not want me to strike man? Man is becoming worse and worse. He has accumulated so much pus within himself that not even the war managed to let this pus out. War did not knock man down. On the contrary, it made him grow bolder. The revolution will make him furious. Misery will make him despair and will make him give himself to crime. All this will serve, somehow, to make all the rot which he contains come out. And then, my goodness will strike man, not indirectly through creatures, but directly from heaven. These chastisements will be like beneficial dew descending from heaven, which will kill man. And he, touched by my hand, will recognize himself, will wake up from the sleep of sin, and will recognize his Creator. Therefore, daughter, pray that everything may be for the good of man. Jesus remained with his bitterness, and I remained afflicted because I was unable to relieve Jesus. I could just feel his bitter breath, and I found myself inside myself. But I felt restless. The words of Jesus tormented me. I could see before my mind the terrible future. And Jesus came back to calm me down, and almost to distract me, told me, how much love? How much love? Do you see? As I was suffering and pain was formed in me, I said, my pain, go, run, run. Go in search of man. Help him, and may my pains be the strength of his pains. As I was shedding my blood, I said to each drop, run, run, save man for me. If he is dead, give him life, but divine life. If he escapes, run after him, besiege him from all sides, confuse him with love until he surrenders. As the wounds were being formed on my body under the scourges, I repeated, my wounds, do not remain with me, but go in search for man. If you find him wounded by sin, place yourselves as a seal in order to heal him. So, everything I did and said, I placed around man, in order to save him. You too, for love of me, do not keep anything for yourself, but let everything run after man to save him, and I will look at you as another me. October 8, 1917. Everything that was done by Jesus is eternal. The souls who love Jesus stand in for him. Continuing in my usual state and being very much in pain, my lovable Jesus came and told me, my daughter, everything that was done by me is eternal. My humanity was not to be suffering for a time, but for as long as the world is world. And since my humanity in heaven is no longer able to suffer, I use the humanities of creatures, making them share in my pains in order to continue my humanity on earth. And this, with justice, because when I was upon earth I embodied all the humanities of creatures within me, in order to save them and do everything for them. Now, being in heaven, I diffuse my humanity, my pains and all that my humanity did for the good of corrupted souls in them, especially in those who love me, so as to say to the Father, my humanity is in heaven but also on earth, in the souls who love me and who suffer. Therefore, my satisfaction is always complete. My pains are always in act, because the souls who love me stand in for me. So, be consoled when you suffer, because you receive the honor of standing in for me. October 20, 1917. The soul can make of herself a host for love of Jesus. Having received my Jesus, I was thinking about how I could give back love for love. It was impossible for me to be able to shrink and become smaller, like Jesus does in the host for love of me. This is not in my power, as it is in the power of Jesus. And my beloved Jesus told me, "My daughter, if you cannot shrink all of yourself within the brief circle of a host for love of me, you can very well shrink all of yourself within my will, to be able to form the host of yourself in my will. For every act you do in my will, you will make a host for me, and I will feed myself from you, as you do from me. What forms the host? My own life in it. And what is my will? Isn't it the whole of my life? Therefore, you too can become host for love of me. The more acts you do in my will, the more hosts you will form, to give back to me love for love." October 23, 1917. The first act that Jesus did in receiving himself sacramentally. This morning, after I received blessed Jesus, I was saying to him, "My life, Jesus, tell me, what was the first act that you did when you received yourself sacramentally?" And Jesus, "My daughter, the first act I did was to multiply my life into many lives, for as many creatures as can exist in the world, so that each one of them might have one life of mine only for herself. A life that continuously prays, thanks, satisfies, loves only for her. In the same way, I multiplied my pains for each soul, as if I were suffering only for her, and not for others. In that supreme moment of receiving myself, I gave myself to all, to suffer my passion in each heart, to be able to conquer the hearts by dint of pains and of love. In giving all my divinity, I came to take the dominion of all. But, alas! My love remained disappointed by many, and I anxiously await loving hearts which, in receiving me, would unite with me to multiply themselves in everyone, desiring and wanting what I want, so that I may take at least from them what the others do not give to me, and receive the contentment of having them as conformed to my desire and to my will. Therefore, my daughter, when you receive me, do what I did, and I will receive the contentment that at least the two of us want the same thing." But while Jesus was saying this, he was very afflicted, and I, "Jesus, why are you so afflicted? Ah, how the flood will inundate the countries! How many evils! How many evils! Italy is going through sad, most sad hours. Draw yourselves closer to me, be in accord among yourselves. Pray that the evils may not become much worse. And I, my Jesus! What will happen to my country? You don't love me as before, when you would spare others for love of me." And he, almost sobbing, "It is not true, I love you.